What's up, guys? Me, JD. I'm joined by Kendall, and thank you so much for checking out this edition of our virtual NBA Draft War Room. Today, we're going to be talking about the New Orleans Pelicans. Kendall, the Pelicans, there was really a lot of excitement about this season, despite the fact that obviously they no longer have Anthony Davis. Of course, they acquired the number one pick, which ended up being Zion Williamson. They traded with the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis, and while obviously losing AD is a catastrophe for any team that had a player of that caliber. There was excitement about some of these young players that are getting back. Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart. And there was hope that the Pelicans would actually, challenge for a playoff spot. And indeed, they did. They went into the bubble about 3 games out, and there was a lot of hope that and a lot of expectation that they would be that 8th seed once things were all settled. But, man, the wheels really fell apart in Orlando. Alvin Gentry, no longer the head coach. Now has Stan Van Gundy, who goes from the booth back onto the coach's bench, and a lot of questions about where this Pelicans team is heading with this offseason, considering all we saw with the Zion. Is he hurt? Is he in the right shape? And then what happens with Drew Holiday? So questions for sure for a team that came in to the season with a lot of optimism.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're well versed in Pelicans knowledge because of our brother Henry, who's a massive Pelicans fan. Very random, obviously, but look, I mean, they're a very interesting team regardless because obviously you have the number one pick from last year, Zion Williamson. You have Lonzo Ball and everything that comes with the Lonzo Ball hype, and a bevy of assets behind those two guys. Obviously the treasure trove of picks that they got from the Lakers and Jackson Hayes and Nikhil Alexander-Walker, who they drafted last year, and guys coming overseas that haven't even played yet, who they drafted last year. You've got Nicola Melli. Like they have a deep roster and a decent group of young players. So this should be and obviously I didn't even mention Brandon Ingram, who's an all-star. So this should be a very interesting team to talk about. And typically, teams as talented as the Pelicans aren't drafting in the lottery, so this should be an interesting situation.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it is a talented team. There's a lot of optimism, but I think that I think there was a lot of pumping of the brakes in terms of where the Pelicans are in their development last season. I think they were at really, really sky high expectations, and for good reason. I mean, considering how Zion looked at Duke and how Brandon Ingram ended up playing without Zion, and then Zion coming back and being a 22 kind of scorer, but it just never came together in a cohesive way. I think there's going to be a lot of, to me at least, I have my eyeballs on David Griffin and seeing, he got a lot of praise for putting together that roster last year. Things fell apart in a major way again in Orlando, and what kind of changes will he make to boost this roster going into next season? So let's talk about the New Orleans Pelicans. Kendall, they finished with a record of 30-42. They had I don't know exactly what the record was in Orlando, but they had among the worst records in Orlando. They really, again, did not play well there, missed the postseason. They own picks number 13, 39, and 40. Team needs. First thing I put was I thought interior defense to me was going to be a team need for this team. I obviously know, they weren't, and overall, they weren't a terrible defensive team. I think that their defense did fall apart a bit in the bubble, but, in terms of defensive rating, middle of the pack, and almost all of the measurements you look at for defense, they weren't nearly as bad, I think, as maybe you would think, considering, they're kind of up and down, high-paced team. But I think that one of the issues I did see is I felt like there really wasn't a lot of rim protection. There really wasn't a lot of guys able to stop people in the paint. Overall, I think their front court really needs a lot of help as well, and that was something I considered. But yeah, interior defense. We're playing Jaleel Okafor, considerable amount of minutes. That's a problem. And Derek Favors, he's a good defender, but I think he's kind of, I hate to say it, but I feel like he's kind of a dinosaur. Okay, is he a 5? So now you have a kind of a non-athletic 5-man. Jackson Hayes has certainly the potential to be a dynamic defensive player, but we're gonna have to see it on a consistent basis. So that's something that I put down. Also, Nicola Melli, I don't look at really as a great interior defender. So the interior defense was something I put down there. I also put down bench depth. because at first I had front court depth, then I looked at the roster again. I said, well, actually they need some back court depth, and then I just put depth because
Right.
this is a team that look, they five or six guys deep, they're pretty good. It's once you get beyond those five or six guys, and when you see the guys that are logging big minutes for them, Kendrick Williams, Melly, Moore. I just don't know if these are the kind of guys that really should be playing major minutes for a team that's a playoff team. And I think some of the young players that they like, Jackson Hayes played well in times, but is in and out of the lineup, in and out of the rotation. Frank Jackson really didn't stick in the rotation. Neither did Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So I think where they thought they would maybe fill the gap with some of those young guys. Besides Hayes, I don't think really the other guys really stood to that kind of scrutiny of playing those kind of minutes, and therefore that's where you get the Moores and the Mellys playing as many minutes, and Jaleel Okafor playing as many minutes as they got. So I think overall they just need to continue to improve the overall talent of the roster. And I think the bench is going to be important. I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing someone like Jrue Holiday on the trade market, because I think that they realize that they're going to have to kind of fill out the rest of their roster. They know the team in the future is going to be going through Zion and Brandon Ingram. Holiday is a tremendous player. There's really nothing bad you could say about Jrue Holiday, but it's just considering where they are and how they can get better, he certainly seems like the piece that would be the piece to try to make that happen. So quickly, free agents. I mentioned Derek Favors. We also have Etuan Moore. Again, those are two guys that played a lot of minutes for them. Brandon Ingram. I mean, he's gonna get re-signed. It's a matter whether it's someone giving him an offer sheet or them just coming out and day one saying here's the max. I mean, he's gonna be back, but he is technically a free agent. They didn't come to an extension yet. Darius Miller, non-guaranteed contract. Jaleel Okafor, also free agent. Frank Jackson, I mentioned. Kendrick Williams, I mentioned. Darius Thornwell, Josh Gray, and Zylan Cheatham, both on two-way deals. Again, this is David Griffith's team. He's got a new coach now, so now this is really not all on him. He no longer is in that position of I'm taking over. I inherited a coach. Now he has his guy. Kendall, I'll go first here. Actually, I'll go first with New Orleans Pelicans. So at number 13, the guy I targeted Aaron Nesmith for the Pelicans here. Again, when I looked at what was the thing that really stuck out to me. Well, there are a couple things. The front court depth was an issue, and I did consider Precious Achiuwa, but I guess the reason why I went with Nesmith instead of Achiuwa here is I think JJ Redick is he's 35 years old. I mean he's not young, and he played really well, but I think relying on him for those amount of minutes and that kind of production probably not the best idea. And Josh Hart, I actually was surprised at how underwhelmed I was by how Hart played for them. So I don't think they really figured out that 2-3 spot. I think that's still an issue. Again, Nickeil Alexander-Walker really couldn't get on the floor. I don't know what it was, because how much we both love him, but he just played great in the summer league, played great in preseason. I don't know. Lights came on regular season, and he just did not play well. So right. So to me, I look at this team and how they're structured, with Ingram being an ISO scorer who isolates a lot, especially in the mid-range. Zion being, kind of the terror in the paint. As much court spacing as possible is going to be needed for this team. So to me, Aaron Nesmith comes in. He's an excellent three-point shooter. He spaces the floor. I think he's going to create a lot of easier driving lanes and easier space for players like Ingram and Williamson. So I thought that he made the most sense there. If I had to go a second choice, I went with Devin Vassell from Florida State. Again, defense, he would help in that regard. He's not necessarily obviously a rim protector, but I think he improves your overall defense. I'm going to assume whatever we saw in that video of him shooting weird was, I'm going to leave that behind and say that he'll shoot the way he shot at Florida State. And if he does, that again gives you some floor spacing. Based off that video,
he'll be an L.
let's hope that video was not anything crazy. I know 13 is kind of, that would be the absolute floor, but it's funny. I think Vassell started this draft season as the guy. It's a guy that was really rising and just he be careful, he might go in top 6. And
people talking about with the Warriors. Oh
yeah, and it's crazy to see. Now I'm not saying he won't be in the top 10, but if you would have told me 3 weeks ago that we'd be talking about Vassell at 13, I would have said no way in hell. But I don't think that it's crazy, and I think that with both of these guys, the Pelicans are a team, considering they have the 2 draft picks in the second round, that they may, and of course Drew Holiday's in the fold too. They're also definitely a trade up option here. So for either guy, maybe it's not at 13, but maybe it's at 8, or maybe it's at 7 or 9. I could see them maybe having conversations with those teams to get maybe one of these guys.
Real quickly, who's the trade up option? The Pelicans do move Holiday into the top 5, let's say.
I know the Hawks were talked about. Oh, you talking the top 5? I don't know about. I don't know if they get that high.
Apparently, the Hawks aren't going to be the Holiday.
Yeah. There was a report that they were.
Assuming they're trying to get that high. Assuming they're trying to get, let's say they trade with the Warriors or they trade with the Hawks. Like one of these teams wants Drew Holiday. Who's the guy they want?
If they're trading for that team that high?
Who would you target if you felt you can get anybody in this draft?
Putting me on the spot here. If I can get anybody, I'll be honest. I think Onyeka Okongwu, actually, going back to interior defense, he slides right into your starting 5. You say adios to Derek Favors. I know you got Jackson Hayes, but I don't think it hurts. I mean, one of those guys got to come off the bench. I think the fact that you have 2 of those guys.
Wiseman can be another guy that does that as well. If you feel you can get Wiseman.
I think that I think that in shoring up that interior defense, I know ball on the ball, no pun intended, is good. Now I really feel strong about the back end, because the other thing too, we're mentioning these other guys with their defense. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Zion was a disaster defensively. So
absolutely.
So when you talk about putting together a defensive unit, you're gonna have to talk about putting someone next to him who can make up for his mistakes. And Brandon Ingram's not the greatest defender. So the front court defense, to me, again, that's why I put it there. Definitely not a strength for this team per se. I think that's why some of those guys that you saw getting a lot of time, it was like, who will guard anybody? It's like, Kenny Williams, all right, you're going in the game. That's not how you want to play in the NBA. But they had no choice.
Van Gundy comes from the Riley, Thibodeau, Steve Clifford, Spoelstra mold of coaching, and all comes from that Riley tree, and that is not a tree that lets you not play defense. So this pick could be a team that could be a player that targets defense. So 2 things. One, I had to poll a Pelicans fan. I asked our brother Henry, who does he want them to draft at 13? And his guy is Alexei Pokusevski. A very interesting option. He thinks that the Pelicans are pretty fine in terms of depth and in terms of the roster, and that they need to take a swing.
He thinks they're fine in terms of depth.
He thinks that they don't need an extra piece. They need to take a home run swing. And I could see the logic. I'm not the biggest Poku fan. I wouldn't advise it, but again, and that's Henry's advice is for them to draft Alexei Pokusevski. For me, one of the things that I think you left off for team needs, that I think is maybe the biggest of them all, is this team needs grit. They need toughness. They need a dog. They do not have that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, real quickly, Kendall, remember, I was, you guys saw the text. I mean, I was furious at just what was going on with the Pelicans all season. I thought they ran their team like a summer camp.
It started with that initial press conference.
Yeah.
When they were talking about, when Dave Griffin was talking about, this isn't Zion's team, this is Drew Holiday's team. And ever since then, it's been, like you said, it's been ran like a summer camp. And
zero lack of urgency. It was like the season didn't matter. It was the team really weird.
They've had too many nice guys for too long. And, it was a fun environment. But when it came down to playoff time, they weren't ready to really lock in and win games. Zion, people want to talk about, is he out of shape? Is he playing hard? What's his defense like? I don't think any of that stuff is a concern if they had more dogs in the locker room. Same with Lonzo Ball. I don't think Lonzo Ball looks as aloof as he did in the bubble. You got more dogs in the locker room. And some of that is coaching, and they got rid of Gentry, who's also a very nice guy. But, we'll see what happens. But I think in this draft, if you're targeting those kinds of guys, I looked at Isaac Okoro. at 11. If he does fall, or at 13 rather, if he does fall, or if you have to trade up, I would look at guys like Isaac Okoro. You mentioned Josh Hart being kind of shaky at times. Josh Hart's a better shooter certainly than Isaac Okoro, but Okoro really gives you a guy that competes defensively, plays with his hair on fire, and that's what Pelicans need. Um, I think another guy if Okoro is not there, they could look at this guy doesn't play maybe with the with that hair on fire mentality, but he plays with an energy that this team needs. And I think I would look at Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey has a little bit of dog in him. He's not like big, he's not the best defensive player in the draft, but he's a guy that plays with a tenacity that I think the Pelicans would need, especially in the backcourt. Um, I think he offers them a guy that can play next to Lonzo Ball, and he adds that shooting that Stan Van Gundy is going to need shooting on his roster around Zion Williamson, and that's why Aaron Nesmith seems like a good option because of that. I just worry about again this team being a little sleepy, with a guy like Aaron Nesmith, who certainly was content with losing games at Vanderbilt. May not content, but certainly has experience losing games at Vanderbilt. Um, and look, maybe you draft a guy like Nesmith early in the draft. They have 2 second-round picks. You could always get a guy in the second round like Jamias Ramsey, who gives you that, toughness and that pit bull mentality. There's guys in this draft like that. They don't grow on trees, but if I'm the Pelicans, those are the kind of guys I'm looking at in this draft. If you're trading up, I would look at Anthony Edwards. And I've gone back and forth. I've thought about Wiseman.
I just don't know how. I don't think they had the capital to get up high enough to get Edwards.
This draft is odd. I mean, look, we'll see what happens at number one. And
number one is no chance.
Yeah, if he goes number one, I don't know if they can get up to number one. But I mean, if we're talking about getting him to number two, Golden State wants Drew Holiday. The Pelicans have the capital to get up to get Anthony Edwards. It's just, are they willing to trade Holiday and maybe picks, or Holiday and Alexander Walker, or it's going to be a conversation about which one of their assets they're willing to give up, but for a guy like Edwards. But I've thought about Edwards. I've thought about Killian Hayes. I see why there's talk about the Pelicans wanting to trade up, because there are guys in this draft that would be interesting. I don't know if Lonzo Ball could be their lead guard of the future. I'm not saying he doesn't have to be on the team long term, but like the Celtics had Marcus Smart in a similar situation, that didn't stop them from bringing in Kyrie Irving. That didn't stop them from bringing in Isaiah Thomas. That didn't stop them from bringing in Kemba Walker. Doesn't mean Marcus Smart is an ancillary piece, but he's still a vital core member of the roster. He's just not the starting point guard. And so if you're the Pelicans, it didn't stop them from drafting Terry Rozier the year after they drafted Smart. So if you're the Pelicans, you have Lonzo Ball, and Lonzo Ball could be a core member of your roster, but that doesn't mean that don't draft an Anthony Edwards or a Killian Hayes or another guard that could give you that primary scoring option. So, and I think that's what they're going to need. I know they have Brandon Ingram. We'll see what Zion is, but that's, again, if you're staying at 13, then again, I'm targeting somebody that improves the toughness profile of my roster. And I look at that core. I look at Maxey.
And I like Okoro and a lot. I think that's a trade up thing to me. I think you're gonna definitely have to trade up, get a guy like that. And if you don't trade up, I think Maxey at 13 actually makes a lot of sense as well. Again, I like the ideal you're looking at is I need more dog, I need more toughness on this team, because I agree. The team to me lacked it. And again, I said the team to me was run like a summer camp. It was, you'll play when you're fine, and you're not in the greatest shape. Oh, that's okay. Well, we're gonna take it slow, and we're gonna put you on a minutes restriction, and it just wasn't. I just hated how they approached this season. Yeah. And the reason why I hated it so much was just because I thought that they had so much promise. And I get you don't want to do anything stupid to risk your future, but at least the position that they had in the public. I can't say what was happening behind closed doors. But the position they had in the public was just that, none of this really all matters that much. We're still working towards the future. And it's like, you're playing in NBA games right now. You have a chance to do something special right now. And they just, and I thought that approach from the front office and the coaching staff led to why the team played like they were playing in a summer camp. That's why I think the frustration lied, was I thought if there was more of a fire lit under these guys, about how there being a certain standard of what's acceptable in terms of professionalism, in terms of playing hard, in terms of being in the right conditioning. If that would have been set from day one, I don't think they would have had some of those issues they had on the court of looking like they're going through the motions, looking like they don't have a
Yeah.
plan, not playing that hard. You set the tone at the top. And Griffin, again, got a lot of credit, but I think that it's time for him he's going to have to redirect course. And what I will say about the hire of Stan Van Gundy is that certainly does it. There's nothing about Stan Van Gundy that is, cool,
Nice.
calm, under control, not intense. There's zero, that's out the window. So what I will say about the coaching hire is, while I don't like how they approach the season, I think that you always want to get a guy who's almost directly opposite of the guy you just had. They certainly did that. So I think that shows that maybe we're no longer here for play, that things are now going to get more serious. And that's no disrespect to Alvin Gentry. I think he's a great coach, and I don't think all of it was his fault. I think he kind of became the fall guy, but nonetheless, now going with Stan Van Gundy, I think that he's the perfect transition from that kind of coach to the kind of skills that Stan has. But what do you think the New Orleans Pelicans should do in this NBA draft? Do you agree about a potential trade-up option? Kendall floated Anthony Edwards. I mean, do you think that the Pelicans have enough capital to get up into the top 2 or 3 to take a guy like Edwards?
Imagine if they had Edwards and Zion.
The Pelicans, for a team that is one of the, if not the smallest market, one of the smallest market teams in the league, they know how to create headlines, especially since David Griffin has been there. So is that a possibility? What would you try to do to get it? Or what would you want to do at 13? Make sure you leave a comment. Also, make sure you subscribe to our channel if you like this video, and give us a like if you did like the video. And that's going to do it here. So thank you guys so much for checking us out. We got only a couple more teams left for this NBA War Room session we've been doing. For Kendall, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace.